What's up, guys? Today we're going to take a look at the brand new Rotel S14 integrated streamer and the Sonus Faber Lumina IIs. I've already unboxed it, but it comes with the remote control, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth antennas, Ethernet and USB cables, and the power cable. Up front, you'll find the power button, 3.5mm headphone jack, and 6 source selection buttons. On the opposite side are the menu navigation buttons, volume knob, and in the center is the display. Around the back are the coax and optical digital ins, unbalanced RCA inputs, and stereo pre-outs. There's even a subwoofer output as well. There's a PC USB in, LAN, and USB inputs, and below that are the speaker binding posts. On the other end are the antennas, main power switch, and the power inlet. It's fairly compact, measuring 17 inches wide by 3 inches high by 13.5 inches deep, and it weighs 20 pounds. It's got a Class AB amp rated at 150 watts per channel into 4 ohms or 80 watts per channel into 8 ohms. It supports Bluetooth aptX HD as well as MQA using a 32-bit Saber DAC. Apple AirPlay 2 and Chromecast is supported, and it is Roon certified. So hooked up to the Rotel S14, we got a pair of Sonus Faber
Lumina IIs, rated at 30 to 155 watts, 1-inch silk dome tweeter with a 6-inch mid driver.
Frequency response
of 55 hertz to 24,000 hertz, and they are leather wrapped.
Leather wrapped.
Beautiful speakers. They are very, like, if you want to put these on your bookshelf, they're great apartment speakers. They look sweet.
Very pretty speakers. And these do pair nicely with the Rotel because Rotel is 150 watts at 4 ohms,
right,
and the speaker is
4 ohms.
Now, as a reference point, we are using a Hagel H390, which is 2 by 250 watts per channel. So it's a little bit more than the Rotel. It also costs a little bit more than the Rotel. And in our reference system are a pair of Kanta number 1s.
Yeah, they're a little bit bigger.
They're
so it's kind of like a bigger reference system than the actual system we're listening to today, but you have to have something to listen to, against it to kind of get a reference.
Yeah, nice. So we know what we're talking about.
Right.
And for source material, what did we use?
We used Roon, and we paired it up with Qobuz and Tidal, as usual.
How'd you feel about the Rotel?
The Rotel did a really nice job. Very clean sounding. Especially for one of these integrated with a streamer. Very basic in terms of its inputs and outputs. Easy to use, but it sounded great, especially with those speakers. And even when we hooked it up to the larger Kantas, it still did a good job of driving the Kantas. Had a real nice, clean, high end, very bright sounding. Yes, people say, well, the speakers are what make it sound bright, yes, but you can pair one amp with a pair of speakers and it can sound different. So these speakers paired with that Rotel sounded very nice and crisp and clean.
We both thought, for the big price difference between the two models.
Yeah.
That price delta between the two, I'm not sure if it's really worth $3,500 more. Although there is a bit of refinement in the top end on the Hagel, where I thought that the top end on the Rotel sounded a little bit brighter, slightly harsher than what I heard on the Hagel. It's still paired up nicely with the Sonus Faber, so you're still getting some very clean, very detailed, airy transparency on the top end. So it definitely held its own against the much more expensive Hagel 390.
Yeah, what, $6,000 versus $2,500?
And I think they sent us the Lumina IIs, I think, because it pairs up nicely as kind of almost a budget system.
Right.
If you wanted to keep it under
if you want to keep it under say $5,000.
Yeah.
The Lumina IIs run $1,200. And then the amp would be $2,500, so you're in a nice price point. You would want to be adding a sub with that, and the Rotel is nice, and it does have a sub output, which I don't think the Hagel does, but
no, it doesn't.
We're not comparing those two. I was just mentioning it. But the Rotel has it has very, very, I don't want to say sparse, but it's very clean on the back side. You're not going to be confused with a lot of different connections you're not going to be using. And it is convenient that it has a nice sub output, because you will you know, if you're using it as an apartment system with these, you know, let me see, these Sonus Faber Lumina IIs, you definitely want to put a little sub in there somewhere.
Yeah, I mean the Sonus Fabers, they sounded really nice in the mid-range as well. It's just when it starts dipping down to like, you know, below like 80 hertz, you're really gonna need a subwoofer.
Yeah.
It starts to sound overly bright because there's nothing just filling in the bottom end.
Right. One of the songs we typically listen to is Ryan Adams' version of Wonderwall, because that has a bass bit that kicks in about halfway through the song that has made us, like, literally when it kicks in, we ask you, hey, did we leave a sub on? It's got a really, really low, some really nice low end bass in that song, and you would definitely not. It wasn't as apparent with these as, like, say, when we ran the Cantas.
And speaking of the Cantas, I mean, these Sonus Fabers held up very well compared to the much more expensive Cantas.
I own Sonus Faber. I love them. Like my home system is the Concertinos from years ago, like 20 years old, and my system is like a reference monitor system with those speakers.
Yeah, I think with the Lumina 2s, I think maybe I would say the beryllium dome tweeters on the Cantas give you a little bit more sparkle on the high end.
Well, that's the whole thing. One of Sonus Faber's claim to fame is that those silk dome tweeters are much easier on the ears. It's a much softer sound. Yeah. But those Sonus Fabers are very mellow, very warm sounding speakers, and that's largely due to that silk dome tweeter.
Yeah, so a nice smooth top end, and just enough to where it's not gonna be fatiguing on your ears.
Yeah, I think, and this just dawned on me, the reason those speakers pair so nice with that Rotel is because of those silk dome tweeters. It takes any edge off that brightness on the high end. Yeah. When we listened with the Cantas, they were a little shrill at the high end.
That Rolling Stones song, was it?
Sympathy for the Devil.
Sympathy for the Devil. There's that guitar solo where it's just like.
Yeah, Keith Richards loves that. You know, loves that his high strings, his B&E strings.
Yeah, so it definitely was more ear piercing on the Cantas with the Rotel than it was with the Sonus Fabers and the Rotel. When people say pair up your speakers with your amps, this is a good example.
Yeah, of that. Excellent. Especially, like I said, for, you know, if you're people who are living in, like, you know, trying to come up with like a nice bedroom setup or just a small apartment setup, is a great combination.
Now, we did have to pair up the Lumina 2s with a Rel T9X subwoofer because there's literally just like no low end on those speakers. Like Bill said, for like a small apartment system, maybe for some background music, maybe for some quiet solo listening, it would sound nice without a subwoofer. Right. But if you do want to crank it a bit more, get a more full body sound to it, you're definitely going to need a subwoofer with it. Maybe Sonus Faber's own Gravis subwoofers, or, you know, we paired up with a Rel subwoofer, which sounded fantastic with it. Yep. But the speakers, though, everything from like mid-range up sounded excellent.
For me, listening in terms of like when I want to hear the really great sound staging, that Cowboy Junkies live at the Trinity sessions with the Sweet Jane, because that, you know, they did that again. You've heard this from me 100 times. They've done it, you know, they used one area mic and they all kind of set up around it and played, and you definitely get you hear the space as well as the music, and it did a phenomenal job of reproducing that. That's one of my reference standard gold things. You know, any speaker I listen to has to, you know, sound good on that, any amp, because if it sounds flat or opaque, yeah, no good.
The Rotel definitely sounded fantastic with the Cantas. It gives it a nice full-bodied sound. Edges a little bit more on the brighter side of neutral, but still has enough juice to give a larger bookshelf speakers nice low-end impact for sure, and definitely some good, excellent mid-range clarity.
2 thumbs up for me, and it's something that, you know, I would definitely look into for an apartment. For the price point, can't beat them.
Now, just a couple of things that, if we're just going to talk about the S14 really quick, as far as like aesthetically or design-wise, I think for its price point, it's, you know, it's $2,500. The only issue that I had with like build quality wise would maybe be the little LCD display in the front. Like, it's a very, I don't want to say very low quality LCD display. Like, it's not super crisp. It's a little pixelated. It's a little soft.
He got spoiled with the Michi. Yeah. Like, now everything he does on Rotel's like, is it a Michi? No, it's not a Michi.
Yeah, Michi's far more expensive. Yeah. but for $2,500 though, I mean, excellent build quality on this. As Bill was saying, it is a streamer, so it's Roon certified. Yep. You can use the PC input. There's Bluetooth.
optical.
Wi-Fi. It will function as an all-in-one streamer for like just a really nice compact system for like a small bedroom or a small living room or something like that.
Right, and even if you want to run, so it's not really designed as a home theater setup, but it does have optical input. So if you wanted to run your TV to that with an optical cable, you'd be doing pretty good.
And plus, like Bill said, it does have a subwoofer output, which is needed if you're going to pick up some small speakers.
Yep.
But at the time of this video, the Rotel S14 is selling for $24.99, and the Lumina 2s are selling for $11.99. Together, I think it is a solid package, definitely worth an audition if you have a dealer near you and you're looking for something small and compact.
For that price point, under $5 grand, and if you throw maybe bringing you up to $5 grand, if you throw a good quality rel or any good quality sub in there, yeah, you can't, and that's a great price. That's a great package for a good price.
And you're coming in under less than what a Hagel and a pair of Cantas are going to cost.
Yeah, yeah. The Hagel itself will cost more than that whole setup.
Yeah, that's true. Well, anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to like this video if you found it useful and subscribe if you haven't already.
Peace, everybody. Be safe.
We'll see you guys again in the next video.